Okay, as promised, finishing up getting the Pro XP ready for the first trip to Windrock. Probably going to go ride Wayehutta today, so kind of pressed for time trying to get this thing back together. I am going to have to clean it again. So stay tuned. I'm going to kind of show you what I do to get this thing ready and go over some, maintenance items and stuff you want to check, especially on the Pro XP. Stay tuned. Okay, so I did this a little while ago. I actually bought brake pads. If you haven't noticed, a lot of things are in kind of short supply and you got to wait a while. I didn't really know whether I needed pads yet or not, so I went ahead and purchased some. But what you want to check is basically, I usually jack up at the center point and I'll actually pull the tires off, check the brake pads, and right before you pull the tires off, you want to kind of rock these side to side. And make sure that you don't have a wheel bearing issue. That's something I try to check. Definitely if I'm going to, be taking a long trip, check your wheel bearings. Check all four tires. Jack it up if you can. If you can't, a lot of times you can do it on the ground. You can kind of press on the tire and it'll actually kind of make a clank sound if you've got a little bit of play in the bearings and something you need to check. One thing I'll mention, so I have shock therapy springs. One thing that I do is every time that I wash it, apply some kind of dry silicone to the base where this is sliding up and down. It really helps with this sliding up and down, and also get this inner spring so that the shock collar doesn't get any excessive wear on it. That collar is going to wear, but on my machine in particular, I've noticed applying that silicone really helps with that. So another thing you want to check is every other time probably that I wash this, I actually unspool this winch. Keep this line clean. When you need this winch, you don't want this to be all nasty and abraded. You definitely don't want to leave it stored, with a bunch of dust and dirt in it. So I try to keep this really clean. This has been used several times now and still looks brand new. And mainly that's because I've been really taking care of the synthetic cable. One thing I wanted to mention, so there's two products that I use. This is one of them. This is what I've used this time, and I'm not completely done. But these plastics get really nasty with like dirt stains. You can kind of see a couple of little stains are still left, especially these boots here. I actually used this product this time. I really like this. I also really like the SC1 product. So either one that you can find, this really does help. Cleaning it the next time, it makes the plastic nice and smooth and slick. It makes it a little bit easier to wash next time. I did probably a better job on the fenders here. But this is something that you definitely want to take care of if you're making lots of trips, because it will help your next wash be easier. And both of those products smell really nice as well. Okay, so one thing that always comes up, a lot of people are, trying to save a buck, etc., which I don't disagree with. However, I have always stayed with a Polaris oil change kit, mainly for convenience. It basically comes with everything you need to actually change the oil. And I have stuck with the Polaris filter. I know a lot of folks, are still trying to do the K&N filters, various oil trapment filters, etc. I don't recommend those. Every one that I've seen that's been used ends up with some ingestion issues in the engine. It's just not worth it. I know these things are fairly expensive. I usually try to pick them up on eBay or Amazon when possible, especially if they're on sale, and kind of stock up at the lower price. But these have never failed me. So never had any ingestion issues. This is my third razor, and I've never had an engine problem up to this point. And so kind of been sticking with what works. But I'm not going to do this all on video. I'm just going to kind of go over where the points are on the razor. There's plenty of videos about how to change your air filter and oil filter. It's just something you do want to keep up with. These engines are really high performance. And, you know, skimping on an oil change on one of these or skimping on a air cleaner change is really detrimental to the engine life. So the one thing that's probably gotten a lot of people on oil change is every RZR that I've owned has actually had this copper washer. A lot of people will like leave it stuck to the oil pan, which generally you can reuse them. I typically don't. This comes in the oil change kit, so I try to replace it. What gets people though is they end up either stacking two of them on, or they remove the bolt and do not replace this. If you do that, it will leak. So you either need to reuse the one that's there, make sure that it's present, or just be aware that this is a part that is on the oil drain plug, and make sure that you make sure it's there when you're done. Either a new one or reuse the old one. Okay, so the easiest way to get the oil filter, you can take that access panel off, but I usually go through here, and you can use one of these Sharpie paint markers and basically put your hours and your mileage on the oil filter. That way you never forget it. So I'm gonna go do that now. Got the oil filter out, sitting in a nice clean area. We'll coat the seal with a little bit of oil, screw that back in, again hand tight, so you can get it off easy next time. All right, so this thing's pretty much ready to roll. You know, we really wasn't planning on riding today, but we're going to anyway, which is a good thing. I didn't get all this cleaned up, but we got this back in here. Oil's changed, went through the entire machine. Really, if you'll probably know, but always check your joints, make sure everything's free and moving, especially on your drive shafts. Those are a wear item. And when you come up to the front, always get in the habit of checking all your steering components, your tie rod, make sure all that's connected up really well. Make sure you don't have any brake line damage. One thing that I have seen is these kind of take some abuse from all the shock, and if these get loosened up a little bit, it'll actually wallow out this tab. On the Pro XP, they're kind of built up and you really don't have a lot of issue with it. But I know my 1000 XP, this was something I needed to check, is the shock mounts, to make sure that that's tight and against. There's like a little buffer tube in there that you actually want to tighten up against, so that the bolt is actually pressing against that tube tight, and the bolt is not wiggling around in the hole. That's something else you want to check. But all in all, I think this thing's ready to go. We're gonna do a little bit of road riding, go grab some food, and hopefully we'll be on the trail here in just about an hour or two. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.